Are we live? Yes, we're live. So, Thursday, second interview of the day. So if anybody watching is thinking, what on earth are we doing? I am going to be interviewing. I'm very fortunate. I've got 20 amazing women that are going to be sharing tools, ideas, experiences for this summit. It's called Take on the World, Ladies. Look good, feel amazing, even in lockdown. I don't know whether that's the right title. It's more to do with, how are you doing? How are you doing? We're seeing so many people, I feel, struggling emotionally, with anxiety, stress. These are uncharted times. Nobody knows what's happening. And how you think and feel is very, very important. So hopefully, out of the amazing ladies who come from totally different backgrounds, different areas, but the one thing that they do have in common is that they all are here to serve, to make people feel good about themselves. So if you haven't registered, the link is above, which will take you to Kim's speaker profile to find out more about her. But she's here. There we go, that way.
Yeah.
So, explain to people who you are, what you do.
Okay, so I'm Kim Alexis, and I am a lot of things. I have a lot of tools in my toolkit. So basically, I'm a spiritual medium, a psychic. I'm a hypnotherapist. I'm an inner child therapist. I'm a past life regressionist. I'm a crystal healer. I do a lot of stuff. And I've been doing this for over 20 years. So, long time back when people were like, what's a crystal? And what's past life regression? Or even, what's hypnotherapy? When people thought you just held a watch in front of somebody's eyes,
Yeah. Lots of misconceptions.
Yeah. So, a lot of what I'm doing, well, let's backtrack a little bit. First of all, you mentioned uncharted waters, and people are saying, well, we're all in the same boat, and we're not all in the same boat, in the sense of there are those who are in a boat who are floating nicely and calmly along this sea, and there are those in a boat flailing their arms, screaming for a life jacket, like the Titanic's going down. And then, if I use that analogy of the Titanic, there were people on the Titanic, the staff, so to speak, who, they were saying, you have to do it in an orderly queue, and mother and children first, and this kind of thing. So they were the calm ones because they were in a position of duty. They were the helpers, to help those people onto those let's say lifeboats. And this is just coming to my mind now because I'm thinking, as therapists, that's what we're doing. We're helping those who are the ones that are flailing around with anxiety, with panic. And when we get into situations where we feel out of control, we tend to go into different forms of I put different types of personalities, where you've got a situation here where we feel like we've lost control of our lives. We haven't got the lives that we had. So in a way, we're grieving for the things we used to do. We're grieving for the life we had, because now we're having to live this different life that we obviously there's some of us who are privileged, who are coping well because we know we've got savings, we know we've got a job, and obviously there's those who are in dire straits, who haven't got a job, who don't know where their food's coming from, who are stuck with violent situations. That there's all kinds of, that's why I say we are in different boats, we're not all in the same boat, but it's how we deal with it. And I think that there's this grief for the loss of the life we've had, and then so a lot of people will go into depression, anxiety, anger, and eventually, and hopefully, to a place of acceptance. And that's when we can get calm and we can feel in control. And that's kind of what I help people do. But I do that in a way with a lot of, as a hypnotherapist, with a lot of regression work, because I take people back to, say, the first time they felt out of control. And that might be when they were told they weren't good enough, they weren't pretty enough, they weren't they were told to shut up, that their opinions didn't count. They were abused. All the things that happen to us in childhood stay with us, and then when we get into situations like this where we're feeling out of control, all that stuff starts to come up. And that's why some people can handle it a lot better than others, because some people have managed to accept what has happened to them and they feel, okay, I'm all right. And there are other people who this is kind of superimposing on all of the stuff that they've never really dealt with. Right. So it's all rearing their the ugly head and coming up now. So that's why you've got these people who are feeling so much more anxious than maybe they need to, or more depressed than they need to be, because for me, a lot of it is back in the past.
Right.
So I deal with that with what's called inner child work, because back then, the child would have done something within themselves to protect themselves. So it could be that they remain angry, but that anger could be a way of them keeping people away from them. So it's a form of protection.
Yeah, it's a coping mechanism.
Absolutely. Or, if they go into a mood and they go into silence, well, then they don't have to speak to anyone, so nobody can come in and hurt them. Again, right. we've got all these, as you say, coping mechanisms. We've got all these ways of protecting ourselves. But that form of protection back then was okay. But we need the subconscious to know that that's not relevant now.
Yeah, totally. That makes so much sense. So much sense.
So what I do with my work is to basically get that inner child or that subconscious part of you to understand that the protection was good back then, but now we need to change it. And is it willing to understand that it's safe and it's okay to let go of doing that and to implement a different type of more positive coping mechanism? Brilliant. So I enjoy doing that kind of inner child psychotherapeutic work, hypnosis work, because I just like to see people well. I just want to be, as you said, we're here to be of service, and I'm fortunate to have got to this place to understand that that's what we're here to do, or that's what I'm here to do. But it's been a long journey. And during that journey, I also learned a lot about spirituality, crystals, connecting with spirit, being a psychic. And that all came about through traveling. I traveled not all around the world, but I traveled a lot. I left England when I was 17 and I went to live in Italy.
Whereabouts? Whereabouts in Italy did you live?
Well, a little place called Fuji, which is a few hours away from Rome.
Okay.
And it is actually a spa place. It's quite a well-known place. The Romans go to drink the waters because the waters are... Michelangelo said of the waters that it... what was it? It was to do with the only stone he couldn't love when he had gallstones.
Oh.
And he drank the Fuji waters to
heal.
Yeah.
Wow.
And, so apparently it said that was the only stone he couldn't love. but yeah, so I lived in Italy, and I still I frequent Italy a lot, and I do retreats in Italy, well-being, psychic development, and inner child, and everything that it covers. You know, finances, relationships.
It all has a knock-on effect, right?
It's all connected, totally. But I went from Italy, or when I was in Italy, I went to tarot card readers and coffee cup readers, and you know, they would look in the coffee cup and they would tell me what they would see about my life, and I loved all of that. And through my travels, from Italy into Tunisia and Algeria and Morocco, and I got a job in Morocco, sitting on the carpets outside a jeweler's shop, and I'd have to entice the tourists in. And I'd have all these crystals around me, but at the time, back then, to me, they were the semi-precious stones. I didn't know that they were crystals that had healing properties in them. It was just interesting that at that time in my life, I didn't know anything about it. And 20 years on,
you had the calling even back then. So when did you realise that was your purpose?
Well, that came many years later, when I basically, I had a few experiences. I had a premonition. I was in hospital overseas, and I was reading a book on Buddhism, and I read in the book that there'd been an earthquake, and I was tired, and I had a radio next to the bed, and I put the radio on, and there was a news flash to say that there'd been the San Francisco earthquake. And I was like, no, that can't be right. I've just read that in the book. But of course, when I looked through the pages, it wasn't there.
Oh, wow.
So I started to have these premonitions, and basically and a few very out of body experiences.
Right.
And when I got back to England, somebody told me about a spiritualist church, and I was like, what's that? Went along, saw that there was a medium giving messages to the audience, standing on the stage, you know, telling them about, you know, I've got your grandfather here, and, you know, he used to be in the Navy, and you know, and used to play a guitar or whatever, you know. And I was like, oh my God, I want to do that. And literally, I went into what we call a circle. But I was just a natural. I was hearing, I was seeing, I was telling people about their lives.
You were open to it.
Yeah, completely open. And I think that's because of the experiences that I'd had through the travels, and the experiences that I'd had growing up as well. You know, I think, backtracking, like I said, to the inner child, we've all had experiences. We've all got the emotional wounds within us, and I think those emotional wounds are what make us who we are.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the experiences that we have are what make us who we are. So the experiences I had as a child growing up, I spent a lot of my life, childhood, in and out of hospital.
Right.
And then I think all the travels that I did after I did North Africa, I went through Europe as well. And I was actually hitchhiking with another girl. So from Italy through North Africa, through Europe. And I've actually written a book about this, and about all the spiritual experiences. So yeah, came back to England, and started on the spiritual journey, more in depth, giving readings to people, telling them about their lives, studying about the crystals. Then I went to a mind, body, spirit fair, and saw that there were these, you know, people with these stools with crystals on, and I was like, oh my God, you know. I had to know more about them, and so I did a course on crystal healing. And I remember at the time thinking this was like a thirst for me. I had to know. Whereas there were other people there who it was just a hobby for them.
Right.
For me, no, this is imperative. You know, that and so I became a crystal healer. I became a psychic, a spiritual medium, and And through that,
that's a very well-rounded, it's a very holistic approach, because you're dealing with the mind, you're dealing with spirit, the whole thing is connected, which I do feel sometimes that there are so many therapies out there that it's all separate, and you know, their way is the way that works. Whereas when somebody like yourself that can combine all of these things, you have a much better way of helping someone, right?
Yeah, it's all connected. You know, I mean, if my title would be a transpersonal psychologist, and transpersonal means taking in the mental, the emotional, the physical, and the spiritual.
Right. It's a bit of a mouthful, though, isn't it?
Yeah. So I never use that label, because most people go, "What? You know, what's that?" You know, but that's what it means to combine everything. And I don't believe that you can have, you know, you can deal with the mental and the emotional and the physical, but I believe you have to work with the spiritual, because we you know, this the famous saying, we are humans having a spiritual experience.
Totally.
You know, we are spirit beings.
Absolutely.
And if we weren't spirit beings, I wouldn't be able to do the work I do with my readings, which is connecting to those passed on. You know, if they weren't spirit, they're just spirit in discarnate. We are spirit incarnate. And so you know, when we pass over, this just comes off, this physical body just comes off like taking a raincoat off. But we are the soul, we are the spirit, that's what we are, and that's eternal. We go on and on and on. You know, we've had many lives, and we will continue to have many lives. And we also have our guides with us, spirit guides, angelic guides, that have been with us for eons of time. So yeah, it's all connected up.
Do you think these days, how do you feel that, maybe say go back 20, 30 years, there was this perception of maybe what somebody like you does now, whereas these days, do you feel that people are a little bit more open to the idea that, yes, we're not this flesh and bones, it is what do you feel that the tide has changed a bit more recently?
Yeah, I mean, obviously for me, I'm surrounded by like-minded people, so we're all open, we all have this understanding. But I think that it's definitely filtered through into the mainstream, because you know, we have everybody wearing crystals, from Meghan to Callum Best to Victoria Beckham, you know, and Gwyneth Paltrow, and do you know what I mean?
Yes, it's more accepting, isn't it funny? Just because a celebrity is wearing it all of a sudden.
Yeah, exactly. And you know, even in products like shampoos, there's always something referring to something very herbal or very essences, and you know, it's filtered through, and I think that's a good thing. I just think that there are a lot of people out there who maybe, you know, the spiritual is an escapism rather than them really dealing with their stuff. So it's very easy to go, oh la 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 la, I'm gonna go up with angels, and I'm gonna, you know, sit under some crystals with some gong baths, and and I'm fine, you know, when you're not. You know, you've really got to go deep and deal with the stuff. And I say to people that I deal with, that when they do come and see me, which by the way, I can do that online now, obviously, rather than them coming in person, I do say to them, you know, you have to be brave. You have to be courageous to want to go in and deal deep with your stuff. And most people get to that point when they, you know, there's a part of their life that they just feel like, I don't want to carry on like this anymore. I don't want to be, you know, whatever it is, overeating or smoking or have this anxiety anymore. I want to know why I've got it. I want to stop it, and I want to release it. And you have to delve deep. I don't think that you know, there's quick fixes as such. I mean, there is to his point with some topics in hypnosis, there are some quick fixes, but generally speaking, I think that if you delve deep, that's, you get to the root of the issues and pull out the roots.
The root cause. You always got to go to the root cause. Otherwise, if it's too superficial, it might only last a little while, and then you resort back to your habitual patterns, which may not be serving you.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So,
absolutely.
do you feel that with obviously, you know, what's going on at the moment, because people are indoors, you know, some, not all, but some have stopped work. So they've got a lot of alone time, thinking time, time of, you know, self-reflection, which could maybe go both ways, cause more stress, or it could open them up. So for them, for what you're going to be sort of offering on the summit, how do you feel that you may be able to offer some help for those?
I think that, you know, some of the things I've mentioned today, which is looking at where does that anxiety originate from, and working with that, because the feelings they're feeling now are just kind of superimposed from the original issue. So, you know, if you're feeling depressed about where you're at now, well, you probably had an underlying depression, maybe back, sitting back there on your shoulder somewhere. Anyway, I don't feel that all of a sudden I'm depressed.
Just because of the virus. Not just, it doesn't happen like that. It might be the straw that broke the camel's back, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Brilliant.
So, you know, I would look at those emotions, those thoughts, and those behaviors, and see how to alleviate that. I mean, on the summit, I might talk about things in a more spiritual way. I might look at the chakras, because the chakras are energy points in the body, which, you know, especially the root chakra, that's all about our grounding. That's all about keeping us centered and aligned. So
I think that would be, I think that would be amazing, because I think that's something that not so many people are even aware of. It's you know, some are, some aren't. And, that I think that would be a lovely combination there.
Well, because it all ties in.
It all ties in.
Because, you know, if you're feeling centered and grounded, then you're going to be stopping that feeling of everything's out of control and I can't handle it, or the overwhelm.
Yes.
If you're feeling very grounded, then you feel you're in control. So then, you know, then there could be the crystals to use to put on the body to help with those feelings, to amplify that centeredness, that groundedness, that calmness. So perhaps some of that. I'm not quite sure yet. I'm just kind of like, I haven't made up my mind.
You've got so many different hats, all on the same thing, as in all to help, to heal, from a very well-rounded, you know, whole range of things. So I'm really looking forward to hearing your talk, Kim. Thank you very much.
I just want to say, actually, there's one other thing I want to say. When I do my readings, when I do my psychic readings, a lot of this stuff comes up. So that's when people then say, oh, you know, I'd really like to work on this.
Right.
So they come, you know, they come for, like, you know, what's going to happen in my future, and what's happening with my relationship, and what's going to happen with my work, and what's, you know, and then these things come up, And that's when I say, listen, you know, we can do some work on it. And then people
Brilliant.
go, yeah, I'd like to do that.
Well,
So I just wanted to put
ends.
there.
You've got both ends. So it's not just showing them what's going on. You're offering, well, so it's even better because then you're offering a solution.
Yes. Yeah.
To any issues that do come up, whether they knew about them or not.
Yeah, exactly.
Fantastic. Well, the link to find out a little bit more about Kim and how to connect with her on all of the social media platforms. If you wanted to contact her, her email address is up there, and you will be able to register, and it's for free to come on the summit and listen to Kim along with all the other, there's 20 speakers all in all with a common theme about how to help.
Yeah.
It's not just for women. I'm saying it's for women, but it isn't just for women. It's for everybody.
Absolutely. You know, men are just, you know, I get many men coming for readings. I get men coming for, you know, their emotional issues. So yeah.
Brilliant. Well, thank you for your time, Kim. Thank you for your time, everybody else, if they've watched it live, or I can't actually read. I need my glasses, Kim. But we'll see you at the summit. Thank you. There you go. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you for inviting me. Bye.
Bye. There we go.